Hello, welcome to the Enchanted Kingdom of Hermione. I'm Zip Gunn, the Lord Chamberlain of the Enchanted Kingdom, and we're going to continue our series of great moments in my life and in music history. Trying to make them both. Some of them are more important to the world than others, but this is where it we really get going here, because the previous moments were sort of random. I was a child. I was really young. I had bought my first record player. Or no, I hadn't bought it. My parents bought it for me. And by the age of 3, I had a record player and I had a little record collection. They were utterly random. They were everything from children's records like Popeye's Zoo to At the Hop by Danny and the Juniors and Walk Don't Run by the Ventures, and I had a couple of Kingston Trio records, just everything. It didn't matter. I didn't know the difference. It was just music. But a gigantic, seismic, the Krakatoa of music occurred. Now, people are going to take issue with me because this one that I'm going to pick, they're going to go, that's not the moment. The moment was later. But not because I'm from Canada, remember. And in Canada, the things were different. I mentioned Dave Dexter Jr. in a previous video. Dave Dexter Jr., I'm going to cut to the chase. Dave Dexter Jr. was an idiot. He hated rock and roll. He was the international head of A&R for Capitol Records. And one of his jobs was to listen to every single that got released in England on EMI, the parent company of Capitol Records, who, ultimately signed his paycheck. And he would get boxes of these records from England. And his job was to listen to them in the hopes that he would find something suitable for American release. But there was a problem. He hated rock and roll, and he hated limeys. Hated them. Go look up a picture of this guy. It'll make sense. So he would get these records and go, what is it? Crap, over and over. I think he put out 2 or 3 or 4 singles of like Frank Ifield and, stuff that he thought, well, maybe this will sell. But he never had his heart in it, and he just started everything with the idea, this is crap, nobody's going to buy this. So came the fateful day, and this is an almost legendary thing. And he wrote about this in his book Playback, but he's a liar in this book. He's completely full of crap. He got a single, one of many singles he got in these boxes of a beat group from England called the Beatles, and it was Love Me Do. And he didn't even listen to the whole song. I don't think he goes, what is this? Listen to this terrible harmonica. Throw it in the garbage. And so, and Love Me Do, when it came out in England, was a minor hit, but it was the beginning of something. Now, strangely, Capitol Records of America didn't dictate policy for Capitol Records of Canada, strangely. And Capitol Records of Canada, and I forgot to write this guy's name down, and I feel bad because he gets lots of credit in my book. Capitol was run by a young guy, and he was under no such constraints. He didn't have to put out what Dave Dexter said. He could make up his own decision. And because his people in England said, this band might have something to it, he went, well, what the hell? So he put Love Me Do out in Canada on Capitol Records. And it didn't really do much. But there was hope, Meanwhile, in the States, Love Me Do went to a label called VJ, which was a Chicago black R&B label that you gotta wonder what they thought they were getting. And they put it out, and it didn't really do much because VJ didn't have distribution, and et cetera, et cetera. And so Dexter kind of saw it. It kind of was a stiff, really, in the States. And Dexter's like, see, I told you. So, Love Me Do came and went, and then I forget what the next single was. Please Please Me. And he's no, this is crap. Passed on it. It went to VJ. Same kind of thing happened. Then VJ ran into money trouble, and they lost their option or whatever it was, I forget. So then when the third single ended up on his desk, he went like, just stop sending me this crap. I'm not putting it out. And the third single was She Loves You. Now, She Loves You ended up going to a label in Philadelphia called Swan, who were even more sketchy than VJ. And the word on the street is that they made, they only sold about 800 copies of She Loves You in America, which blows your mind when you think about it. However, in England, it was one of the songs that really broke them. And it started Beatlemania, really. And in Canada, it was popular. And it was so popular, and this will give you an inkling of the power of Beatlemania back then. August the 23rd, 1963, it got released in England. It came out, I think it's September in Canada, and on Swan in the States. Died in the States. Kind of was a hit in Canada. So much so that as a whatever I was then, 4-year-old, it reached my consciousness, and it reached the consciousness of a lot of people in Canada. Beatlemania hit in Canada several months before it hit in the States, and She Loves You was the song that launched it. Now, I know you're all going to say, wait a minute, I Want to Hold Your Hand is the moment. Not in Canada. In Canada, She Loves You was it, and part of the reason was the refrain. Yeah, 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 yeah. Everybody was going around going, yeah, 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 including us 4-year-olds. Now, I was going to a play school called Jiminy Crickets, and like all play schools, they had a seesaw, and like all 4-year-old boys, you'd get on the seesaw with your friend, and you'd push it really hard and slam your buddy down, and then he'd push really hard and slam you down, and you'd have these, you know how kids are, they're mean and aggressive. But we would do it while we're going, yeah, 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 yeah. That's how much it penetrated our consciousness. And from that point on, I was completely hooked on the Beatles, as was the rest of the world. America took a little time to catch up. And the only reason I Want to Hold Your Hand was the catalyst in the States was because after having passed on She Love You, Beatlemania was raging in England. It was just completely taking over. Alan Livingston, president of Capitol Records, called Dave Dexter into his office and says, Dave, the Beatles have a new single out, and we're putting it out, and we're going to put a lot of promotion behind it, and I don't care what you think of it. Now, in Dave's book, he kind of tells the story a little bit different. He says that he went to England, and I forget the guy's name in England for EMI. Here, you got to hear this. And he goes, why? Who is it? It's the Beatles. Oh, I hate these guys. They're no good at all. And he claims that he heard, I Want to Hold Your Hand, and went, well, who is this? It's the Beatles. Oh, it can't be. It's too good. I call bullshit. I think he was full of crap. His book is a must-read if you want to read a real revisionist history of a lot of things. At any rate, She Loves You was the thing. And in Canada, and Beatle fans will know all about this stuff, there was a record came out called Twist and Shout, which was essentially the VJ stuff in the States. But this was on Capitol 6000 series, which was a uniquely Canadian series. And a lot of great stuff came out on the 6000 series. The Hollies, the Yardbirds, Manfred Mann, I mean, everybody. Meanwhile, in the States, Dave Dexter Jr., and this is an amazing list of things, he passed on, these are all EMI artists, the Animals, their next single was House of the Rising Sun, the Hollies, the Yardbirds, the Dave Clark Five, who else? I think he signed Freddie and the Dreamers, ultimately. But almost everything he passed on in 63, 64, and 65 went on to be hits. He probably cost his company tens of millions of dollars in lost revenue. And a lot of these records came out in the States on Epic. And a few came out on Imperial. A couple came out on MGM. None of them came out on Capitol. And I don't know how Dexter kept his job, but he was senior at that time. And so he decided, and he still hated the Beatles, didn't care that they were selling millions of records. And this is a story for another video, I suppose, but he also decided he was going to monkey with their albums. He shortened the albums to 12 songs. They started out as 14 in the UK. Because of various publishing regulations, they had to pay more if they put more songs on, and being skinflints that they were, they didn't want to pay for extra songs. And he also remixed some of them. And if you're one of the unfortunates like I am, who grew up with the American version of Beatles 65, which wasn't even an English album, he added reverb and he filtered them. And I remember it sounded weird then, but when I got to the Beatles box set and listened to the proper versions, I was flabbergasted at how different they sounded. I didn't really like them as much at first because I was just so conditioned to like the version of She's a Woman. Nowadays, I listen to the American version of She's a Woman and I go, ugh, wow, I would have killed him. Needless to say, the Beatles were not doing cartwheels of joy about the monkeying with their work, and at the first opportunity, they prevented this from happening. But my moment of discovering the Beatles was when She Loves You hit the airwaves. And you know what? I've really liked the Beatles ever since. At that point in time, I would do everything I could to buy every one of their records, although that was a little ways yet, down the road yet. But She Loves You, yeah, was just like a clarion call for kids everywhere. And of course, the Beatles really did connect with youth, even 3-year-olds. So there you have it. That was my discovery of, my real discovery of rock and roll and AM radio. I was listening to a lot of AM radio. AM radio was making the shift towards rock music and, well, I guess you would call it pop music now. But that was the start. And I still remember the Seesaw as like it was yesterday. My buddy Danny McDonough, boy, if he's out there, I'd love to know where he is. I haven't seen him since about 1965. So there you have it. Thanks for watching. And we'll do more of these. These are fun. Don't forget to like and subscribe and all those wonderful things. And be a good person. Try to set a good example. I always tell this to my younger friends, some of whom are in need of some guidance. And I think it's a good piece of advice for us older folks to tell the younger folks. Try to set a good example. I believe Ed Cassidy of Spirit said it first. And he was quite a bit older than everybody else. So there you go. Learn from the greats. Thanks for watching. And we'll talk to you soon.